I can't do that.
Call the meeting to order. For those who care to, please rise for an opening prayer and salute to our flag. Mr. Mendez, would you open?
Heavenly Father, we just come tonight, thank you for the opportunity to gather. We ask that you watch over this meeting, be with us for the remainder of the night. It's in your Son's precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. You want to talk to me about announcements? That's what
You got to jump in.
We'd like to let everyone know Mr. Krischke is off today. He is celebrating the birth of his first grandchild. So Mr. Krischke is out. And
Grandpa Jim.
Grandpa Jim, yes, he is enjoying that. So hats off to him. I'd like to open it up now to citizen participation. Anyone wishing to speak to anything not on the agenda, please step forward, state your name, give us your best 3 minutes. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Seeing none, citizen participation closed. Need a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Welcome, Ms. Guy Rice. Would you give us an overview of the financial report?
Yes, what you have in front of you are the financials as of August 31st, and you will see that cash has grown slightly for the month, so that's always a positive. And the year-to-date revenue and expense report, even though we are still in the hole for the general fund and the Parks and Recreation Fund right now, we did see a 10% decrease in the net loss from July, so we are gaining slightly. So, and budget-wise, our revenues are 47% of the 2014 budget, and the expenditures are 56% of the budget.
Questions, comments, discussion? Seeing none, motion to approve financial report?
Motion. Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dirksen, anything? No, Mr. Krischke's not here. Future community events. Welcome. Mr. Keeley? Pool go okay this year?
Yes, it did. I'll be supplying you guys with the report
Thanks.
next meeting. But yes, it's doing well. Pulled the plug on the drain today, as a matter of fact, so it's a little wet over our area. Future community events for the remainder of September. September 9th through November the 13th is Arthritis Foundation Exercise Program. That program is offered at 1:30 p.m. at Tuesdays and Thursdays at the Community Center. September 11th through October the 2nd is Toddler Tumbling. It's offered on Thursdays at 5:30 or 6:30 p.m. with pre-registration required. This coming Friday is the last day to register for our Youth Girls Basketball Program. That's for grades K through 6. The season begins the week of September the 29th. This Friday is also the last day to register for Fall Adult Volleyball, September 12th. That season begins the week of September the 18th. This coming Friday night is our second annual Senior Citizen Prom. The event takes place from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Public Community Center. September 15th, 22nd, and 29th is Toddler Open Gym. That's Mondays, 10 a.m. No Toddler Open Gym will be offered. That was already gone. So anyway, the 15th, 22nd, and the 29th. September the 19th is a Schools Out program. That's for kids ages 7 or a completed kindergarten to age 12 or currently in kindergarten to age 12. That's from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Republic Activities Building. September 19th through October 3rd is Todd Academy. That is offered on Fridays at 10:30 a.m. Pre-registration is required. September 20th is another event at the AMP. We had an event out there last Saturday night as well. The event on the 20th starts at 6:30 p.m. with a show by the Fish and Magicians, and is followed by a showing of the movie Finding Nemo. September 25th is Senior Movie Day at the Republic Community Center. That movie is to be announced. We haven't decided yet.
You want some suggestions?
Yes.
Major League? Okay,
Now
there you go.
that would be really good, actually.
Okay, good
The
movies.
The Wild, we've got The Wild thing right there. Here, look at
Sorry, Gary.
September 26th is the last day to register for youth girls fall volleyball. That's for grades 3 through 8.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keeley, appreciate it. Board Commissioners Committee schedule, Board of Adjustments, October 2nd, Capital Improvements, September 24th, City Council, September 22nd, October 13th, and Planning and Zoning, September 13th. On to old business and tabled items, I'd like to have a motion to remove Bill number 14-17 from the table. It has been tabled to this date. Need a motion?
Motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to remove Bill number 14-17 from the table. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. It is now on the table. I'd like to have a motion to have the second reading of Bill number 14-17.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending Title IV Land Use, Chapter 405 Zoning Regulations for City of Republic, Article 1 in general, Section 405.020 Definitions, and Article 8 Special Use Regulations, Section 405.670 generally.
Need a motion and final approval of Bill number 14-17.
Second.
Motion and a second. Welcome, Mr. Tyson. Please give us an overview, sir.
This bill will amend the sections that Brenda just read to effectively eliminate the category of group daycare homes. The result of that will be that all daycares operated out of a place of residence caring for fewer than 10 children will be regulated as family daycare homes. The way we regulate family daycare homes is we require the daycare operator to come in and get a home occupation license. To approve a home occupation license is merely administrative with very little discretion involved, and so what we'll be doing is eliminating any legal notices in the newspaper, any notices to property owners within 185 feet, and any public hearings before Planning and Zoning and City Council. We currently do all of those things in order to approve a group daycare home under our current regulations. That would change if this bill were approved. It's worth noting that the Planning and Zoning Commission considered this bill and voted against recommending it to City Council, so a supermajority of affirmative votes will be required to pass this bill.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Tyson? Or comments among yourselves?
Just one.
Mr. Wilson?
So if, get my voice here going. So if this bill passes, then whatever the state says, if they give the okay, why they can have a daycare, right?
I would imagine that would be the case for almost every application that would be submitted to the city. There, I suppose, could be an extreme circumstance where we might deny one, but I think that would be very rare. So yes, if they were issued a state license.
We don't have a say-so in it, right?
Whatever
Well, I read it.
conditions we could deny their business license for, we could also deny their home occupations license for the family daycare home, even if they got their state license. But like I said, I think that would be a very rare occurrence. So essentially,
Okay.
you're correct.
Tell me this then. Say on a city block, this one couple, they decide to do that. They get their license, and as it goes along, another person on that block decides to do it. And before long, the whole block is taken up with the daycare. Do we have any recourse on something like that?
I think we would be hard-pressed.
So in
To
other words,
deny
you pretty much
permits.
have a business in a neighborhood, a whole block of businesses in one neighborhood.
Sure.
That's what it amounts to.
But you can have that now.
You could have that now.
You can have that now.
If we pass it.
No.
No, you can have it right now all the way up to 6 kids.
Yeah, up to 6 kids, not
Up to 6, yes, but I'm saying you can have that now. It's just the number of
Do-
kids is what you're
Do
changing.
we have any cases like that now, where there's multiple daycares in a single neighborhood?
No, I don't believe any of them are in close proximity to each other, the ones that we have issued special use permits to. Now, as far as just the 6 or under, that I don't know. I have not mapped those, so I couldn't say. When we get these special use applications, I always check for other home-based business licenses that have been issued in close proximity. I haven't run across one yet where there was a concentration of several together. But that potential exists for that to happen.
Additional questions, comments, discussion? That's a good question.
Just saying that the 10 is one short of being a commercial business.
That's correct.
I said my say.
Did you get your question answered?
Yes.
Okay, good. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Anything else? Okay, you're quiet. Roll call vote.
Councilmember Harrelson?
Aye.
Councilmember Poole?
Aye.
Councilmember Mendez?
Aye.
Councilmember Harder?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
No.
Councilmember Melton?
Nay.
Councilmember Wilson?
No.
Councilmember Clinkenbeard?
No.
Okay, motion is a tie at 4-4, however, that is, fails because it requires supermajority from planning and zoning, which would have been 6 yeses. So, motion of bill number 1417 has failed, so just want to let everybody know that. Just because it's a tie does not mean that it requires a vote, because it did fail without the majority of 6. Okay, thank you. On the next item, I'd like to have a motion of the second reading of bill number 14-24.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carried.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending Chapter 215, Republic City Code Offenses, Article 4, Offenses Concerning Public Peace, by amending Section 215.320, Unlawful Use of Projectile Weapons, to clarify exceptions.
Thank you. We need a motion on final passage of bill number 14-24.
Motion.
Second. Motion second. Welcome, Chief Lowe. Give us the overview, sir.
Well, I almost hate to, because Katie did such a fine job with the monitor last meeting on covering what was said, but the bottom line is, our existing ordinance is rather reactive. It doesn't offer the opportunity until somebody's actually shot a projectile, whether that be an arrow or something else, off of their property within a neighborhood or residential setting. As long as they maintain, with the owner's permission, within the boundaries of their property, there are really no restrictions we can place on them. There have been a few complaints from citizens to some of the council members, I gather, as well as several of the departments, and this ordinance was brought forward to see if we couldn't bring a little bit of rationality to what's appropriate in a neighborhood setting and environment.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. I've got one comment here in just a second. I'm going to take questions, comments, discussion first.
No.
You looked at me like I got a question, so I'm going to...
You looked at me like you had a comment.
No, I didn't.
Wait for words of wisdom.
Impart them.
You're killing me. Mr. Wilson, go ahead.
Okay. And I read it in here, but in your projectile, that you're not classifying a pistol or rifle into that.
No, those are firearms. That's
Right.
something, these are something that, and the definitions that we've got in there separate and differentiate between being a firearm type projectile propelled by an explosion as opposed to these would be propelled by other methods.
Well, I was asked to make sure there was a restriction,
Oh, yes.
and I really didn't hear, so I knew there was. I asked.
You're a good man.
How do airsoft guns factor into this?
Well, the definition would say that could cause death or serious bodily injury. Now, I suppose you could come up with the idea if you shot me in the eye from up close with an airsoft gun, that's serious bodily injury, but that's not something that we would, any more than, say, a squirt gun.
Okay. Okay.
Mr. Peckenbeer?
I had one, I thought this would be a little bit more controversial or something that citizens might weigh in on a lot more. I received only one call over the last 2 weeks, and I promised him that I would let his voice be heard since I'm his representative, but basically brought the comment that I thought a lot of people would, is that there's government stepping in, taking away my rights to do things on my property type thing. And my kind of response back was that it's similar to a firearm, is that you can't discharge one. It doesn't mean you can't own one, doesn't mean you can't use it for defense of your property or those types of things, but you know, one of the things that we do is in the interest of public safety, and especially in the particular instance, the most recent one where people have called us, it's definitely a public safety issue. So, but I said that I'd relay on how he felt about it, and I was surprised to only get the one call. I don't know if anybody else here received calls or, you know, people wanting to weigh in on one side or the other on this.
Just that one.
One comment from me. You guys don't get this very often, but there's one area that we might want to add in here. Ron, I've kind of had a quick discussion on it under Section A, number 2. At the last, it says, nor the shall apply to city or school sponsor activities. The one thing that we might want to add, and it'd be totally up to council, but my suggestion would be to add either a church or civic organization for demonstration only, or approved by city council, something like that, as we do in fireworks, because we do have organizations that want to come shoot off fireworks, you know, like for back to school. We may have a civic organization that might want to put on a demonstration of, you know, proper bow and arrow use or whatever. And those type of activities might want to be considered to be covered under this. Currently, they are not covered.
I thought last meeting we spoke about a special use permit that would cover these other things. Wouldn't that fit into this realm? That's what we do with the fireworks.
We'd have to go back and go through planning and zoning and see if they would approve that change for a special use permit.
Otherwise, we could put it in here that they could go get a special use permit.
No.
If you want to do a special use permit, you're going to have to go through planning and zoning and just what you did on the daycare center.
However, if you want to go the other route and include church or civic organizations for demonstration only, you can add that in the language, and that would be under an amendment. That would be totally up to you.
Motion.
Do we add
to?
Let me do a clarification here. Do we want to make this specific to demonstration purposes, and they don't have to come to city council, don't even have to come to staff unless it qualifies as a special event, or do we want to put something in there like the fireworks where they have to come to city council to get approval if it's outside that window that we have allowed for fireworks?
I mean, are we thinking about every possible scenario in this language? If we're not, then that special use permit would be a catch-all for us and allow us to review those.
But even if you go back and use special use permit, you're going through a whole different process. I think what Ron is suggesting is that you modify the language to encompass what you're asking for, to allow them to come back to get approval from council.
And during that,
similar to a special use,
but not
a special use.
Correct.
In that approval process, council could say, okay, where are you going to hold it? They're holding it in the middle of a shopping center with
Different
cars
story.
around. You'd probably deny that, but if they have adequate plans and come forward with that, then you could
I like
potentially.
that idea because it's not limiting the
I think we
things we're
want to
not
have
thinking about.
council oversight on it, though, especially if you include civic organizations. I mean,
Yes.
that could give a wide encompassing.
Well, and it does. The only reason is the person that talked to me about this brought this particular issue up, and that's why we're bringing it forward, just for...
What if Bass Pro were to want to come down here and do a school?
Exactly.
That wouldn't be covered by a church or civic organization. That's a commercial entity. So
That would fall under the school, right? Isn't that in there?
No, that's school like R12.
Gotcha.
Or
Oh, you're talking about teaching.
Yeah.
I gotcha. I thought you meant that they were gonna do a demonstration at a school.
So, how do you want to define that, and how do you want to approach it? You don't have to approach it at all. It was just my suggestion from a comment that was made to me that we did not cover in this particular ordinance.
I think we should. I think we should figure out the best language to put in there, which I can't tell you right now, but I think we should.
If that is the direction council wants to give, rather than try to do this on the fly, would it be better to table it at this time, and then I'll come back with some alternate language at the next meeting?
That would, I'll make a
I agree with
motion
that.
to table that till
I'll-
the next meeting.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to table the next meeting until Ron clarifies.
And give Ron homework.
Yeah.
Give Ron some homework.
I got my homework right here.
All in favor of tabling, bill number 14-24, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
You say table to the next meeting, is that correct?
Table to the
Yes.
next meeting. Yes, that's what it is. Moving on to the next item, I'd like to have a motion to have the second reading of bill number 14-25.
Motion?
Second. Motion is second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to execute an agreement with the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission for the installation and maintenance of Purple Heart City signs at the east and west city limits on US Highway 60.
I'd like to have a motion of final passage of bill number 14-25.
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Welcome, Mr. Brock. Please give us an overview, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. I think in this case, the title is very descriptive. This agreement would be required from MoDOT to allow the city to install Purple Heart signs at the city limits on US Highway 60. It's a very one-sided agreement. The city agrees to install and maintain the sign. Certain conditions, the highway department can require it being removed, but I think these will be, there's not much risk of that happening. We would estimate a cost of about $300 per installation to get these signs purchased and put up.
Perfect. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock? Anything at all? Seeing none, roll call vote. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Harrelson? Aye. Councilmember Full? Aye. Councilmember Mendez?
Aye.
Councilmember Harder?
Aye.
Councilmember Brashears?
Aye.
Councilmember Melton?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson?
Aye.
Councilmember Clinkenbeard?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 8-0. On to the next item. I'd like to have a motion of the second reading of bill number 14-27.
Motion, second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, amending ordinance number 07-47 to authorize the establishment of a policy concerning the qualification of businesses under the Republic Enhanced Enterprise Zone.
Thank you, Brenda. Welcome, Ms. Knockel. Please give us an overview.
Thank you so much. This ordinance amendment is pertaining to the Enhanced Enterprise Zone that was put into place and established and approved in 2007.
My fault.
What?
After you read, I was just on my way. Need a motion to have final approval, bill number 14-27.
Motion. Second.
My apologies, we have a motion in 3 seconds. Ms. Noggle, will you please give us an overview again, because I screwed up? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay. This ordinance
Scene one,
amendment.
take two.
Thank
you. Is pertaining to the EEZ, as previously mentioned, that was established in the year 2007 by ordinance. The EEZ, just as a little reminder, is an incentive program that offers a 50% property tax abatement for 10 years to qualifying businesses, in addition to a state tax incentive that's available to them as well. The state recently had changed the program, which resulted in the local municipalities needing to complete their own due diligence when they qualify a business. And so as a result of that, staff felt that it was important to clarify some areas pertaining to the criteria that must be met for a project to qualify. This amendment will allow staff to present guidelines for your approval by resolution, and which will expedite the process and not by ordinance. So later in the agenda, I'll bring forward a resolution to you that will actually go through the guidelines for qualifying the business.
Perfect, thank you. Questions, comments, discussion from Ms. Nyla? Anything at all? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Councilmember Clinkenberry.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilson.
Aye.
Councilmember Melton.
Aye.
Councilmember Brashear.
Aye.
Councilmember Harder.
Aye.
Councilmember Mendez.
Aye.
Councilmember Full. Aye. Councilmember Harrelson.
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0. Thank you very much. Do not have any new business tonight. On to other business and resolutions. Resolution number 14-R-57, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic of Missouri authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding with Cedar Park Development, LLC. Would like to have a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Welcome back, Mr. Brock. Please give us an overview, sir.
Thank you. The subject of this memorandum of understanding is decommissioning a temporary sediment basin. The sediment basin was built in 2005 and was intended to improve the water quality from the Westbrook Center development as it was being constructed. The construction plans and the easement indicate that when the Westbrook Center subdivision had been built out, then the temporary sediment basin could be taken out of service. What those documents did not provide, however, was guidance on who should be responsible for decommissioning that sediment basin. The city is directly involved in this, in that our storm sewer that is active in service dumps into that sediment basin. So the proposed resolution is essentially a cost share arrangement with the owner of the property where the sediment basin lies. That's Cedar Park Development, LLC. They're represented by their member, Lori Lowe. And the responsibilities of both parties is set out in the MOU. Essentially, the city provides the materials. Primarily, that's going to be 42-inch corrugated metal or plastic pipe, the junction box, various other bits and pieces expected to cost between $7,000 and $8,000. Cedar Park Development, LLC, then would be responsible for providing all labor and equipment and any other bits and pieces that might be necessary that aren't on our shopping list in the MOU, and also to dedicate a permanent easement for the new facilities. For the city's expenses, there is a subdivision upstream, the Sandstone subdivision that bought out of their detention. They deposited with the city a sum of about $33,000 intended to be used in that basin, and so staff is recommending that a portion of those funds be used to cover our cost in this endeavor.
Thank you, sir. Questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock? Mr. Harder?
Have we had one of these understandings before with other organizations? Has this happened in the past?
2 points. One is, please ignore page 3 in your packet. That is left over from a memorandum of understanding with another entity. But the second part of the question is not under these circumstances. We've done some public-private partnerships. The most recent one I can think of was Dollar General, where we had some deficiencies in infrastructure, and both parties took on some responsibility to kind of bring things up to code in that area. But this is a bit unique in that the temporary sediment basin was located off-site. It's not actually in the Westbrook Center. It's on an adjacent piece of property. Ownership generally goes back to the same individuals, but it is unique in that sense.
Additional questions, comments, discussion for Mr. Brock? Anything at all? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? The motion carries. Thank you, sir. The next item, resolution 14-R-58, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, awarding a bid for power washing water storage tanks and authorizing the execution of a contract with Cunningham Sandblasting and Painting Company Incorporated. I'd like to have a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Mr. Brock, give us an overview, sir.
If, North City Council looks at the water towers as often as I do, but if you have, they're dirty, they need to be cleaned. You see algae and dirt build up, particularly on below the water line on those tanks. We had money set aside this year in our 2014 budget for tank maintenance. $18,000 was appropriated. We have not spent any to date. We went through a sealed bid process, received 5 bids. Our low bid is Cunningham Sandblasting, and make clear that's just their name. All we're doing is power washing the tanks. There's no sandblasting or painting involved in this contract. And staff is recommending award to the low bidder at their bid price, $16,900. This is work that will be done this year.
Okay. Questions, comments, discussion, Mr. Brock?
You didn't want to hang off the tower?
No, sir.
Mr. Brock, or Mr. Harder, go ahead, sir.
Have you used Cunningham before for any or water blasting, sandblasting?
It has been a number of years since they've worked in town. Their last job, they sold and constructed the tower on Highway 174. They are very active in the industry and would have no issues with them doing this type of work. Thank you very much.
That was my question, because there's so much difference in the prices.
There is, and I think the issue is that the other companies really don't want the work very badly. If we look back at some of the power washing we've had in years past, and I will say we've never had all 3 structures done in the same year, generally the pricing has run $4,000 to $5,000 a piece. So we think from that perspective, they have asked for sufficient funds to do a good job, and then it's our job, of course, to make sure that they do so.
Additional questions, comments, discussion? What's the time frame for this to be done, David? How long does it take
The
to
actual
start?
contract time says 120 days. Speaking with their representative, we think this should be done before Thanksgiving.
Okay, fair enough, thank you. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Mr. Veltman?
Do we have contamination screens on those towers and stuff? Do they replace those in this power works, or do we do have those
Yes,
on the...
we do have those. No, this is strictly just to clean the outer surface.
Do they check those as they're cleaning them?
We inspect those pretty regularly. Did so in June of this year.
And they could run into some serious problems if a bird or anything, one of them ever fell down and a bird ever got in here, be a lot of trouble going on.
Yes, sir.
Good question. Additional questions, comments, Mr. Quickenberry?
Will this affect any of the decaling, and how do we handle like the cell phone towers that are on top? Do they not touch those, or do they request those be cleaned too?
They have to work around those.
Okay.
And the decaling and painting?
It shouldn't be an issue. Their pressure washer generally works about a 3,000 psi. That is very high quality paint that's used on the tank, and any kind of blemish like that, if they were to develop a problem, they'd be responsible for repairing that.
Touching it up?
Yeah.
Mr. Harder?
So we do an inspection afterwards, and
Yes. Pre-construction, post-construction.
Very good. Good questions. Additional questions, comments, discussion? Anything at all? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you, David. On the next item, resolution number 14-R-59, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic of Missouri accepting a bid for the breathing air compressor and related items. Would like to have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Welcome, Chief Compton. Can you give us an overview, sir?
Good evening. We have been pursuing this grant to replace our old breathing air compressor for the last 3 years, and we're lucky enough to get awarded this year. Our old compressor, City Council declared that surplus property back in July, and we've since sold that through the seal bid process and got, for the compressor and the 6 storage bottles, $3,800, which is a little more than what we thought we would get out of something that was that age. We want to replace it with a Bauer breathing air compressor, and we selected that compressor style of compressor over some of the other brands because it has a pressurized crankcase oil system versus a splash rod that's connected to a piston connecting rod, similar to what your home push mower has. So the life expectancy of this is every bit of 25 to 30 years. And plus that also cuts down on our maintenance cost. The FEMA grant will pay for a compressor and 2 storage bottles. We took out a service, a compressor, and 6 storage bottles. So we need to acquire 4 additional cylinders at the cost of $4,953. Where those cylinders come into play, when we start refilling the breathing apparatus that our staff wears, we can generally fill approximately 3 to 3.5 of those bottles before we pull down the storage cylinder pressure low enough that we have to go to the next bottle. So we're trying to keep our bank at 6 where we can fill bottles in a rapid fashion versus just having to kick the compressor on and stand there and wait for it to refill the air packs. The FEMA grant will pay price of $24,274. There's a 5% match there, which is the city's part, which is $12,1235. And then we'll have additional $1,153, which we'll take out of our capital outlay budget that we have on hand to pay for those additional 4 cylinders. When we started this grant process, we had originally budgeted a $4,500 match. We also had in the grant as a separate project a exhaust capture system for both of the stations. And FEMA kicked that out because the cumulative age of both of the fire stations was not old enough to qualify in this year's round of funding. Pretty much everything they qualified this year, the fire stations were 30 plus years old. So our original match for the $90,000 was $4,500, so we have some extra money there to make that up.
Okay. Questions, comments, discussion for Chief Counsel? Low bidder was Firemaster in the amount of $29,200. Forgot to mention that.
Thank you. So the last 25 years with some warranty.
Warranty on this one is pretty much 1 year bumper to bumper, and then they've got a 10-year parts on the compressor and the electric motor.
Okay.
So if it's going to break, we'll break it pretty quick.
Fair enough.
Either going to work or it's not, huh?
Yeah, it's either going to work or not. That's how. Basically it's a motor. That's what it is.
Glad you're honest.
Additional questions, comments, discussion for Chief Counsel? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. On to the last item on the agenda. Resolution number 14-R-60, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Republic, Missouri, clarifying the qualifications of applicants for the Enhanced Enterprise Zone Tax Incentives. Would like to have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
A motion, a second. Welcome, Gail. Give us the overview, ma'am.
All righty. As mentioned earlier, this resolution is going to approve a set of guidelines, which were included in your packet, and will serve as the basis for which a business qualifies for the EEZ property tax abatement. I might mention that the qualifying factors have not changed at all since this EEZ has been put into place in 2007, but right now we're just wanting to clarify and formalize the process with this set of guidelines. The guidelines is a working document, so that may require some adjustments moving forward as different projects are identified. But we've tried to think through just about every scenario that we can in coming up with these guidelines. I might also mention that the EEZ committee, which was formed in 2007, which actually presented the EEZ to the City Council at that time, held a meeting last month, and these guidelines were discussed in detail with the committee members, and there was pretty much unanimous consideration when it was given to what kind of guidelines they would like to see us bring forward to council. If you turn to page 3 of the EEZ guidelines, I'm going to highlight a few of these items that I think warrant some discussion. I might also mention that there was quite a bit of work that was done and research done on what other communities are doing to handle this new change in the state program. So we've done our homework and checked with the other areas to make sure that we're being consistent, and also making sure that someone out there might have a better mousetrap that we need to adopt. So on page 3, if you'll be so kind to go to that in the guideline area, I'm going to highlight a few of these things for you. I won't go through each and every one, but of course if you have any questions, please do feel free to ask. Again, changing the guidelines that were approved in 2007 is really not the case. It's just a matter of clarifying the qualifiers. So the first thing I'd like to mention on page 3 of the guidelines is the job creation. And this area in a nutshell is saying that 2 new jobs will be created in clusters 1 through 5. Now, if you'll look at the top of page 3, you'll see there are 6 items that are identified there. The first 5 were clusters of the economy that were determined, and this is pretty much consistent throughout the state, as appropriate, productive industry clusters for a community. So the 2 new jobs would fall into any one of these 5 categories. If by some chance there is a business that comes along that doesn't fit in these 5 categories, but does qualify based on the other criteria, item number 6 serves as a little bit of a safety net, and that's my understanding that's why that was put into place. And in that particular case, the requirement for job creation is up to 15 new jobs, not just 2 new jobs. We need to keep in mind that this is an incentive and not just a handout. We're looking at good, strong quality businesses to come into the area. Another item that talks about the job creation is referencing to a job base, and I believe that is also on page 3 in that last paragraph. And what we're saying here is that if a company moves into Republic from outside our legal city limits, then these jobs they bring are considered new. So I'll give you an example. If a company's in Monette has 50 jobs currently employed in Monette, and they come to Republic and move their operation, they don't have to create 2 new jobs because those 50 jobs that are coming from Monette are new to our community. Now, if for some reason, and again, this was playing every different kind of scenario that we could, and I might mention to you that I had a lot of meetings and discussions with the Department of Economic Development to make sure that our logic was keeping of the spirit of the EEZ program, and they felt like it was. They felt like communities should consider those jobs, even though they're moving from one community to another, should consider those as new jobs to your area. I'll give another example. If that ABC company is already located in Republic and operating in Republic and plans to build a new facility and meets the other criteria, in that particular case, they do need to create 2 new jobs because their job base was already here. So the 2 new jobs that would be created would apply in that particular case. Again, as I mentioned, the EEZ program is intended to create new jobs for a community and not just build another building or develop another piece of land for an existing business that's already here. Page 4 of the EEZ guidelines lists some other critical areas that I wanted to mention as well. And those areas, again, are the same guidelines that have been in place since day one with the EEZ, but not only do they have to create the number of jobs previously mentioned, they also have to pay a minimum average wage of at least 80% of the county average wage. So again, that keeps that above that minimum wage threshold and makes sure that we're bringing in some quality jobs into the area. In addition to that, the employer has to provide and pay for 50% of the health insurance premium for the employees. And their capital investment has to be a minimum of $100,000 in a capital investment, and that would be anything from machinery, equipment, furniture, land and building. Of course, inventory is not eligible on that. The application process, we have buttoned up a bit. We have some criteria here, and this has been pretty consistent throughout the state as well, that in order to be approved for the application for the EEZ, they cannot have already started work on the project, obviously, and a public announcement cannot have been made. And there's a reason for that, because if that announcement gets made prematurely, then that sets the wheels in motion that the business entity was already planning on coming to your area anyway, and the incentive was not of significance to them. So that is another reason. And it also allows us to coordinate with the state and with the governor's office should we try to get the governor here. They don't like to be the last to know of these advancements. The other area I might mention to you is under the process for applying for the benefits, the notice of intent. Under A, it says that you might be able to find that at the developrepublicmo.com. At this moment, you cannot find that because it's not on there yet until we get this approved through council. And then on the next page, page 5, one of the areas that it talks about too is program restrictions. And one thing that was discussed and researched, and we actually made a provision to address, was item number 3, and that is this program benefits do not run with the land. So if business A sells to business B, business B will not automatically get the EEZ incentive. They will have to qualify on their own. Okay, we've tried to come up with all sorts of scenarios, so I hope I haven't thrown too much out there. I'm sure we could be faced with a unique situation moving forward, but that's the reason for adopting this by resolution, so that the guidelines can be altered, changed, whatever, with council's approval, should that be necessary.
Very well, thank you. Questions, comments, discussion for Ms. Noggle. Mr. Harder?
A couple of things. If a company qualifies for this benefit, what happens if they pull out within 5 years or within that time frame? What's the penalty?
There was quite a bit of discussion and research on that as well. In visiting with the Greene County Assessor's Office, and this is rather interesting too, there's really only 3 areas that have approved EEZ boundary programs. One is Springfield, and they have 4 different designated EEZ programs, Republic, and Stratford. So the gentleman I visited with in the assessor's office said in the 18 years he had been at Greene County, never once, because I asked that question, never once did Springfield ever go back and say, whoops, they've shut down their operation after year 3, we're going to pull them off the property tax abatement. And when you think about it, it's really kind of irrelevant, because that first year they went ahead and made the improvements anyway. So there's no actual penalty that would be paid.
And just for everybody's benefit, what are the boundaries of the EEZ?
There is a map. Did you all get a map? If not, I have copies. The EEZ. The EEZ boundaries pretty much encompass just about the entire area of city limits. And the boundaries are established by a glided guideline that was put into place.
Okay. Get those 3 guys, I'll be fine.
That was put into place at the state level. So the red area are the boundaries for the EEZ. Do keep in mind, though, when you look at this, and you might think, holy smokes, we could end up having to abate almost the entire city's property tax. That wouldn't happen because this program is protected by the zoning classification. So obviously you wouldn't be providing the property tax abatement for residential, for some commercial. It would mainly be for the manufacturing M1, M2 categories, and some C2 as well.
Good questions. Additional questions, comments, Mr. Clinkenbeard?
Last one you mentioned here about doesn't move with the land. What if a business comes in, they get a 10-year abatement, and they sell to someone at 3 years? Does the other company that comes in, can they keep the remaining 7? I mean, you wouldn't want them to Why
They
wouldn't
cannot.
you want that incentive? Because then they might, let's say it's a company that's got multiple locations, they could shut down your location and move somewhere else.
They have to qualify based on their own criteria. So if they do come in and move into that operation, and there's 7 years left on the property tax abatement, then we will have to qualify them. They'll have to create 2 new jobs. They will have to make an investment in that property as well. And if they fall into those categories, then yes, they could get
So even if it's
the
a
abatement.
working business that doesn't ever stop, that's continuing on, and it's just a parent company that's buying it, they lose that abatement?
If it's a parent company, there's a
Well,
legal.
let's just say there's a manufacturing company there, it doesn't go out of business, it's still in operation, they just sell to somebody else. Why would you want to take away their abatement? I mean, they've already made the improvements, they're continuing, they're not taking away the employees, you wouldn't want to... That might make it difficult for someone to sell that business if for some reason the new one couldn't qualify.
Yeah, I see your point. I think that might get addressed on, bear with me here,
Didn't mean to put stuff
under
there or anything.
definitions, and a lot of these definitions and this verbiage came from the state guidelines, which we tweaked to fit into our area. There is a area on, under definitions, I believe it is. Do you recall, Ron, the area that's talking about that? It has to do with what an owner is. Employee, full-time employee, new job, new payroll. Bear with me.
That may actually have been in the statute. I don't recall exactly what it said.
And we've had situations where, say, a private owner passes and his family sells the business, it's never closed, continues on, but you don't want that to shut down, you don't want to take away that
Well,
incentive
I would
to
think if it
continue
remains
operating.
under the same name, under the same next code, I would think in that case.
I think it's, and I'm
Then it
shooting,
would remain the same entity.
I'm shooting from the hip here.
Okay.
If it sells as an ongoing business, and nothing changes, then I'm gonna step out and say it probably would qualify without going back and really looking at it. If just the structure sells and a new business entity,
Sure.
they go from manufacturing
Being
widgets
ABC to DEF or
doing
whatever,
something. Yeah,
right.
then I think that
Then they
new
have to
entity would have to qualify.
So the important thing would be to educate whoever's buying it to keep, like, the corporate name and then keep the local doing
a good
business
point.
as the same or whatever to continue that abatement, if they don't want to go through the process and requalify.
Right.
And if they're not in an expansion mode, that might be difficult to do immediately.
That's true. That's true.
I just
That's
want-
a
I
good
just saw
point.
that
Point
last
well
one.
taken. No, that's good.
Why don't we do this, Mr. Quickbeer, while Mr. Derrickson and Ms. Nog will pull information for that one particular question.
And what, just as Gail has explained here, this is just setting up some guidelines.
Sure.
We obviously feel like there's probably going to be the need to come back to council to tweak it or add things as they
Sure.
come along. If we see that there's a need to make some type of change to address that issue, we can do that by a new resolution.
And look at the state statute in the process.
That'd be fine. Is there anybody currently in the middle of this process where this would affect?
No, but this has been a little bit, it has been a little touchy because we had some that have already broken ground and were kind of caught in the midst of things, but have received approval, and that's out in the Brookline area. Of course, Watson Metal Masters is already up and running, so that won't be a problem. Red Monkey
Okay, I
kind
didn't know
of
if
fell
we
into
could
this
discuss
category.
the name yet, but
yeah.
I wanted to make sure that
Tomorrow
if
I
we needed
actually get to
delay
do the press
this-
release.
Do we need to delay this to allow them to finish their process, or is it better that we approve and we don't want to take some